Hi everyone and welcome. In this video we're going to do a recap on what we had covered in class today, RMIT University Industrial Design Flexible Modelling. And what we were exploring was soap block like forms in surfacing them in Rhino. So without further ado, let's get modelling. Okay, so what we're doing is we've got our Curve Tools tab open, and we looked at rectangle with curvature, so conic corners. Rectangles with conic corners. So let's right click on that. And in our top view, let's maximize our top view. And let's, with our snapping on, let's draw out a 70, so it's about 70 by 50, 70 by 80, what's this, let's go for that, 80 by 60, that'll do it. And then let's get our conic corners the way that we want them. We've probably got an underlay sketch, but I'm not doing that today. Highlight our rectangle of conic corners, click on the white dot in the gumball, and then just drag this to the world origin. Okay, let's just have a look at the curvature on our curve. So if I right click, middle click on my mouse and choose my curvature, there we can see a nice flow on our curvature. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to just look here in our perspective view, and we're going to move this curve up. So I'm just going to move it up. For the size of this and the proportion of this sketch, we're just going to move it up about 12 millimeters, let's say. That'll do. And just going to remove that curvature graph, and then we're going to draw a control point curve from the end knot here in our shape, and then come over into our front view, holding shift, draw a vertical line down, then draw another point, come down to the 0 in the Y and click, hold shift and click another point and press spacebar. Okay, now this is going to be the curvature. It's going to create our sidewall. Now what we might want to do is select that and select these two and just slightly bring them in. On this point and adjust it, and then what I'm going to do again is I'm going to select this line and I'm going to look at my curvature graph, and we can see that this point here, let's turn the grid snapping off, just needs fine tuning, and this point here needs pulling back, so that we can get our surface roughly right. And we can see here that we're getting that smooth, we're getting that kink out. There's a kink here, and we're just getting that flow of surface and matching our ISO as best as we can, so that we can get a nice flow on this edge here. And that'll do me. That looks pretty good. Alright, let's remove that. Let's maximize our viewport here, and let's rename the layers. So we're going to call layer 1 curves, and we're going to call layer 2 surfaces, and we'll change the color this sort of greeny colour for our surface, and we'll leave our curves red. Grab these two and let's move them to the curve layer. So change object layer. Okay, now they're red. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to choose our surfacing tools, and we're going to do a sweep one rail. So we've got the rail and we've got our sweep profile. Let's activate our surface and choose our sweep and select the rail and select the shape to sweep around and press enter when done. Let's also just click here and put shaded mode on, and we can see our surface here. Let's turn refit rail off and you'll note what happens here. We get this bump. Let's have a look what happens if we patch this and we don't refit rail around this surface. Let's have a look what happens. Alright, so there's our surface. Let's get our patch. Let's choose these four edges now. Press enter. Do a preview. And we can see our patched surface there where we didn't rebuild. In class we put a rail, we built a rail on there, but we're not going to do that. So let's go OK. And we've got that surface like that. What we could do is, if we delete this and we delete this one, is to do a rail and to choose this one and then that one, and to do a refit rail. And if we feel that the corners, like here the corners are too pinched up, what we need to do is to adjust this edge here in a little bit, and it probably helps if we put our curvature graph on just to make sure that it's looking right. And then let's do our rail again. So it's important that we get our geometry right. That's improving. So we can see here that we've got gaps appearing on our basically our extra refit rails, and we could go in and further fine tune that, but I'm happy at the moment with that. Okay, so now let's choose to patch this inner rail and press spacebar. And here I'm going to make it actually 4 by 4 UV spans. Alright, there's our surface. And I'm going to remove that curvature graph. Alright, so now we've got the bottom of our soap block. And you know, this could be a little USB speaker, like a Bang & Olufsen speaker, something like that. Or it could be, you know, some kind of mobile phone object, who knows, or some kind of battery charger pack, soap block pack. Now we're going to do the top surface. There's a couple of ways we can do this top surface depending on how you want to control it. The first way, what I'm going to do, and we didn't show this in class, is we're going to do a surface from 4 corner points. So I'm just going to come up here into the top view and zoom out. And effectively, I'm just going to create a surface in an anti-clockwise manner. Oh, actually, I've got to put my grid snapping on. Let me skip that. Go to grid snap. And let's press spacebar to get this last command back so we can create the surface. Okay, so now we've got a surface. Alright, here it is here. Because we went counterclockwise, the positive of the normal on the surface is facing up. If we went clockwise, the normal would be facing down, and we would get the negative side of the surface at the top. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to rebuild this surface. So if we come up to rebuild, rebuild edges, no, I want to rebuild surface. this rebuild surface. And we can see here, if I go for a 4, 4, and preview that, you'll see that I get a group of isospan control points in the middle of my surface. I'm going to delete my input and go OK. When I click on this surface and I come across here, I can turn my control points on. And to help myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this surface to layer 5, change object layer, and I'm going to activate that layer, and I'm just going to hide my surface layer and my curve layers for now. Alright, so here's this surface, and if I grab these 4 control points, and let's grab them again, and I get my gumball, I can pull my gumball up, and then you'll notice that my surface now has shape to it. And the good thing about this technique to a point is that I can always grab those 4 and pull them down and control them, and I've got a perfect 4-sided surface, and that helps me in Grasshopper. And now if I turn my surface back on, I can grab this one and enlarge my front view, and then I can lift this up like that, and I can do some trimming now and refit the surface, and I might have a sketch that surface fits to. And you know what, it's pretty good, isn't it? Let's just take it down a smidge. I've got my grid snap on. I'm going to turn my grid snap off, come in here and move my surface down, what, 0.45 of a millimeter, okay? I'm just reading it down here. Alright. Now the other way that I did this in class, let's just activate the curve layer, let's hide this, is what I did was I came into curve tools and I chose a control point curve, and I went from this quad endpoint and I brought it up, clicked another one, I held down shift. I better make sure I've got my grid snapping turned on, held down shift and snapped into the middle. I grabbed those 2 and I brought it down. I'll probably grab that one and I'll shift it around a bit. I got that curve and I mirrored it. I mirrored it around the end point and held down shift. And then I did the same thing over here. So red is not the best color. Let's change it to another dark black because we can see that against the pink. Then I did another control point curve. I don't have that in my shortcuts yet. Control point curve. And I came over here and I don't want near. Let's turn near off. And yeah, I want that quad. And then I came into this view, into my right view, clicked, click, shift, click onto that endpoint, press enter, zoom in, and grab that one. Actually, I grabbed both of these because you'll note that that's not on the grid. And I grabbed the green and I scaled to 0, and then I will basically lock that up, pull that across, and then I'll go back and I'll refit my next one. So what I'll do is I'll come in here, go shift click, grab both of these, let's delete that one, click on this one, pull that up. I want the curve point. Zoom in. So I want, in the 3D view, this control point, and I want to move it up to the end there, like that. Okay, and then because it's back onto the grid, I can choose that point and I can pull it up onto the grid. Whoops, grab that point and lock it down onto the grid. There we go. Now it's perfectly straight. It's important sometimes to grab that center point on the gumball and move it so the center point snaps, because if it's off the grid and you move it, it will move in increments, even though 1 millimeter increments, even though because the point is not on the grid, it'll move it in 1 millimeter and it won't be back on the grid. So you have to choose the middle section and then drag it to the grid and it will snap on. Okay, let's mirror it. Okay, so that's what we did, and then let's mirror this one. Okay, so we had these 4 curves, and we've got that outside section, and then what we did was we went a different route and we patched. So we could patch this top surface. Choose the outside edge, the curve, enter. Preview, so there's the patch. If we turn automatic trim off and preview, there's our full surface. Now it's full-sided, but it's got a lot of deformation to it, and that could be problematic later on when we're inside Grasshopper and we're putting our grid pattern on there. But let's just forge ahead and we'll look at the 2 different strategies. So we've got that, and of course that surface is the wrong way. Let's flip it. Now because this surface, it's built to 0.001 millimeter tolerance, which is good for millimeter dimensions in small models. But these 2 surfaces won't actually join together. And we'll have to do a little bit of extra blending, which we want anyway, because we're not going to fillet these. We're going to do surface blend so that we get nice curvature control over them. Just change that. Okay. So this strategy is a much better strategy because it's a perfect square grid. When we do a UV divide in Grasshopper, we're able to control our grid. With the curved one, I think it's going to curve. Sorry about that. It's going to curve the UV divisions, and I think we want straight UV division. So this will probably help. So let's just use this surface instead. So what I'm going to do is go trim. I can come up here and I can select the trim, select the cutting object. So I'm going to choose this bottom surface, press enter, and then I want to cut this outside surface. There we go, and press enter. And then let's do the reverse. So let's press enter, select the top one, enter, and then we want to just come in here and trim the top off. There we go, and it totally messed it up. Okay, let's go Control Z. Actually, what I want to do is there's 2 surfaces here. Let's click. Let's just move that one for a second. Okay. And then let's show that one. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to remove this one. Maybe I had 2 there. I don't know. Sometimes I get a bit distracted. So let's go trim. What do we want to trim? We want to use this as the cutting tool. press enter, and then what do I want to trim off? I want to trim this top section off like that. There we go. All right. Let's see what happens. We knew before that if we selected this surface and shift this surface and we joined them together, that it would join those two, and it's done that. Yet they're both joined together. Let's just select the top, and then let's try joining that now. And we can see that now, because we had a good top surface topology, that the whole lot has joined in one go. And we could do something like we could fillet this surface and then select the second surface and choose a radius, and we could do a G2 blend. We didn't look at this in class. This is actually acceptable blending, and we can see our highlight here, and we can actually see how our surface is flying. And we can explore a range in which we can look at deforming our radius. So at the moment it's about 2.3. We can adjust that. And we can actually see that we're getting a good transition on this surface as a G2. We definitely don't want to do it as an arc because we won't get that nice transition between the two surfaces. So let's go for G2 blend, and we can adjust the the tangency and the bulge as well, but let's just go OK. And let's move that to layer 5. Okay. And that has a pretty good transition now. So if we grab all of these, press the middle mouse button and join them, it's now joined them all into one solid soap block form. And if we look here at the zebra stripes for this object, and let's just put it to medium, and let's turn those edges off. We can actually see how well our transition is going. And that's another nice way of doing it beyond what we showed you in class. What we showed you in class was to create a line, cut the bottom block, offset the curve that we use to create the basic form, and then trim the top surface, and then do a blend here, a blend surface. Now, there's different ways of doing this. Blend surface lets you go to G4, and I think that the fillet surface was a G2. So if we wanted a G3, then we're better off going with the method that we used in class. Okay, so there we have it. There is our basic soap block form, and we can open that top surface in Grasshopper, and we can apply a pattern to it, which we'll be doing next week. All right, thanks everyone, and we hope that you have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you next week.